If you ask me what my favorite video game is, the answer is probably pretty controversial. But my favorite game of all time is, without a doubt, The Last of Us Part 2. I love the first game, it is an absolutely great story of course, but let's be honest, it is a pretty standard post-apocalyptic road trip adventure that draws a lot of inspiration from other stories in post-apocalyptic genre, as well as genres like horror, Americana, or Western. The Last of Us is a great game, but to me, Part 2 is absolutely phenomenal in almost every way. As a writer myself, the story greatly inspired my vision of the dystopian genre by taking many creative risks and unusual creative choices, for mainstream media at least. The game is fantastic in my opinion, but many people genuinely didn't enjoy it. Majority of haters obviously lost the game before it was released and never even intended to play it. But among those who actually immersed themselves into the story and experienced the game all 30 hours of it, we can actually find some valid points of criticism. Most people of course didn't like the fact that Joel dies right at the beginning, and for almost half of the game we have to play for Joel's murderer, Abby. We have to understand her position, her emotions, and what moves her, why she does what she does. This game intends to evoke a sense of compassion, but many people felt too angry because of Joel's death, so they refused to accept Abby as the protagonist. And this story heavily relies on our feeling of empathy towards her. I personally liked Abby a lot and thought she was a fantastically written character, but I also can understand why so many people do not feel the same. In an attempt to make Abby a likable character, Neil Druckmann and the team I think did not do the best job, although they tried hard obviously. So in this experimental video, I intend in my turn to rewrite The Last of Us Part 2. I attempt to bring my own vision, how I see the story might have worked better for us as players. In my version, the game consists of 12 chapters and an epilogue at the end. At the beginning we find ourselves in Seattle, Washington. Our protagonist is a girl named Abby. She wakes up at night again because of her nightmares. She can't forgive herself because she could not save her father who tragically died years ago. Abby and her friends Mel and Owen serve as soldiers for the Seattle-based military organization called the WLF or Washington Liberation Front. They are also known as Wolves. Wolves are at war with a cruel religious cult named the Seraphites, or Scars how soldiers call them. They fight over control of Seattle. Abby and the others are going to storm their island. During the ferocious battle on the shore, Abby gets separated from her group in the forest. There she meets two scared Seraphite children named Yara and Lev. They are trying to escape from the island because Lev's life is in great danger. They are being chased by a Seraphite brute who almost kills Abby, but Yara saves her. After that incident, Abby decides to take the kids with her to safety. Yara shows Abby a place where they hid a boat in case of emergency. Abby and the kids take the boat and go to mainland Seattle. Abby quickly realizes that she cannot bring the kids to the WLF headquarters because they are very likely to be imprisoned and tortured for information about the Seraphites. Thus, Abby decides to take them to the aquarium, the place where she and her friends Owen and Mel usually hang out. On their way through the park at night, they get ambushed by the Seraphites. The cultists are preparing to sacrifice Abby, Lev and Yara, for they believe it will bring them victory over the WLF. One of the cultists breaks Yara's arm. However, right before the sacrifice, the Seraphites are attacked by the group of infected, so Abby and the kids manage to escape. However, Yara is pretty bad due to her broken arm. They spend the night in an old trailer and the next day they keep going towards the aquarium. The first chapter ends, and after that we see a flashback with little Abby and her father. Abby is crying because her mother died, but then her father enters the room and tells Abby that everything will be alright and that he's gonna protect his little girl. In Jackson, 5 years after The Last of Us ends, Ellie and Joe live in town. Ellie finds a girlfriend named Dina and becomes good friends with a guy named Jesse. Ellie's relationship with Joe deteriorated over time, but we don't see exactly why. They grew apart from each other, although Joe tries to fix their relationship, seemingly in vain. Ellie and Dina become scouts. They explore areas surrounding Jackson. They go on a mission to the abandoned settlement not too far from Jackson to explore a radio station that's located there. They arrive at the settlement and explore local houses, trying to find some useful supplies. However, the settlement gets overrun by a migrating horde of infected. Ellie and Dina get attacked and barely survive. After that, they finally come to the radio station, which isn't working. When they come, it's already evening. Moreover, the formidable snowstorm on the horizon is coming. So Ellie and Dina decide to stay in the radio tower, where they make love and lately converse about Joe. Ellie tells Dina that she might be ready to forgive him for what he's done, because she understands that he was trying to save her. The next morning, Dina and Ellie prepare to go back to Jackson. However, the radio station gets attacked by a group of raiders who surround the tower. Ellie and Dina have to defend themselves and fight off the raiders. The end of chapter 2. We see a flashback with Ellie and Joe in the Wyoming Museum and Ellie's birthday, just like in the original game. After a rough night, Abby, Yara and Lev manage to get to the aquarium where they meet Mel, Abby's pregnant friend, who is also a doctor. She says that Yara's arm must be amputated. For that she needs medicine which can only be found in the hospital. Abby leaves Yara to Mel and promises to return as soon as possible with required medicine. Lev volunteers to go with Abby, which Abby agrees to eventually. They go together to the Seattle hospital, which became the WLF medical camp. Abby asks Lev to stay outside and be as cautious as possible because other soldiers would gladly capture him. Abby goes into the hospital. She lies to Nora, one of her friends, that she needs special medicine because Mel isn't well. Abby is told that the medicine she is after can only be found on the lower level of the hospital, which was abandoned for decades. Abby goes all the way down and finds what she's looking for, but also encounters an abhorrent being named the Red King. After a relentless fight, Abby kills the Red King and returns back to Lev. They go back to the aquarium. Owen, Abby's boyfriend, is also there. Together, Owen and Mel amputate Yara's arm. Mel also tells Abby why Lev and Yara are on the run because Yara explained it to Mel while Abby and Lev were absent. Lev is transgender and his own mother swore to kill him for that. At the end of the chapter, a couple of days later, Owen comes to the aquarium and tells Abby that the location of the person who murdered her father has been detected. Owen gathers a group and asks Abby whether she wants to go and avenge her death. Initially, Abby declines the proposal, saying that she needs to look after Yara and Lev. But she has another nightmare that night, so in the morning she tells Owen that she cannot even sleep properly, so she has to find and kill the murderer of her father. Chapter ends. We see a flashback with Abby, her father, and the zebra. Back in Jacksontown, Joe grows extremely worried for Ellie and goes to Tommy trying to persuade him to go after Ellie and Dina. Due to the night and terrible snowstorm, Tommy suggests postpone the search till the next morning. Joe agrees. He returns to his house and starts playing his guitar, remembering how he used to teach Ellie to play when she was younger and when they just settled in Jackson. In the morning, he and Tommy go to find Ellie and Dina. Only two of them, because they don't want to attract attention. They reach the settlement but find it taken by the raiders. After killing off tens of raiders, Joe and Tommy get to the radio station, which is being stormed. They arrived exactly in time and save Ellie and Dina. And after that, all of them return home. Joe tries to talk to Ellie, but she says they didn't need his help and he didn't have to search for them. In the evening, Jackson celebrates Christmas. Ellie and Dina dance together and kiss. In the meantime, Joe talks to Tommy and tells him that he could never let Ellie go. He doesn't care about the world, he doesn't care if he stole a remedy from the world, he just could not let his daughter die again. The next day, Joe and Tommy, concerned by the group of raiders, go on a patrol around Jacksontown. Chapter ends and we see a flashback. Joe and Ellie are in the old lodge looking for guitar strings. This is where Ellie starts to realize that Joe has not been quite honest with her. Abby, Owen, and their small group are riding through the snowy forest. They get attacked by the infected in the forest. Later, they meet a couple of strangers who happen to be Joe and Tommy. Joe and Tommy bring the group from Washington to a nice cozy house in the forest, where they can get some rest and get shelter from the blizzard and the infected. Abby and the group thank strangers for help and introduce themselves. Tommy introduces himself and his brother as well. Meanwhile, Ellie, feeling bad for treating Joe so poorly after he and Tommy rescued Dean and her from the raiders, wants to find him and apologize. Maria tells Ellie that Joe and Tommy left together and that they might be in the forest house. Ellie goes there but gets captured by unknown strangers who bring Ellie to the guest room. We control Abby again. We are in a guest room where we witness a horrendous scene. Tommy lies on the floor unconscious. Joe is beaten up. Abby says Joe murdered her father 5 years ago and now she came to avenge her father. Abby's friends bring Ellie to the guest room where she witnesses this abhorrent scene. Ellie is imploring Abby not to kill Joe and to let them all go, but Abby doesn't change her mind. She kills Joe while Ellie is watching and crying. After that, Abby's friends suggest also killing Ellie and Tommy to get rid of witnesses, but Abby says they came only for Joe and the other two must be left alone. Owen then knocks Ellie out. The whole group leaves the cabin in the woods and goes back to Seattle. The end. Another flashback reveals how Abby returns to the Fireflies hospital and finds the massacre there. She goes into the surgery room and finds the body of her father killed by Joe. Sometime later, Tommy and Jesse go after Abby to Seattle. Ellie, not being able to just sit and wait for their return, sets off on a journey to Washington, despite Maria's relentless opposition. Dina joins Ellie, so they embark on a journey together. After some time, Ellie and Dina arrive in Seattle. They encounter a group of WLF soldiers from which they hide in the underground subway, where they meet the Shamblers. They also come across the Seraphites as well. In the end, they reside in a local theater for the night. Dina quite unexpectedly feels really bad. The next day, the girls capture a random WLF soldier. Ellie asks the soldier if she knows someone named Abby. The WLF soldier answers negatively. Ellie then asks where to find the WLF camp or something like that, and the captured soldier tells Ellie to go to the Lake Hill Hospital. Ellie kills the captive and goes to the hospital, but alone because Dina feels under the weather. The end. The flashback takes place outside the St. Marie Hospital, where Joe finally confesses that he lied to Ellie all this time. Abby returns home suffering from PTSD after murdering Joe. Yara got better. Mel gave birth, but her child was stillborn. Nonetheless, Mel took good care of Yara and left. Abby, however, doesn't really know what to do with them. But she and Owen are called by the WLF leader Isaac. The WLF plans another attack on Seraphite Island. Abby feels hesitant about joining the attack, but she can't really refuse. They go to the island and launch a brutal assault on a village located near to the shore of the island. The soldiers capture a Seraphite man and Isaac tortures him in an extremely gruesome way. After that, Abby decides she doesn't want to be a part of a meaningless, endless war. It's certainly not the world her father dreamed of. As the storm rages and as the fight between the wolves and the scars unfolds, Abby tries to persuade Owen to leave the battle and go with her, but Owen refuses. However, he eventually catches up with Abby and joins her, saying he's too tired of constant slaughter and wants some peace. On the boat, Abby and Owen have a sincere conversation. Abby tells Owen that she feels even worse now that she killed Joel. She says that she just wishes to take Yara and Lev and go somewhere else where they can live peacefully, and that life is not black and white. War and blood will never fix anything. In the flashback, we see Abby and Owen discovering an aquarium for the first time. Ellie sneaks into the Lake Hill Hospital. There she finds a woman named Nora, who happens to be friends with Abby. Ellie threatens to kill Nora if Nora doesn't tell her how to find Abby. Nora, scared of being killed, tells Ellie to go to the aquarium so she might find Abby there. Ellie kills Nora nonetheless and sets off on her journey to the aquarium, but meets Tommy. Tommy and Jesse found Dina in the theater. She told them where Ellie went. Jesse stayed to protect ill Dina, while Tommy went after Ellie. Together, Ellie and Tommy eventually get to the aquarium at night during the storm. At first, the aquarium seems deserted, but then Ellie and Tommy encounter Mel. Ellie kills Mel and takes Lev hostages. Ellie and Tommy come up with a plan. Not knowing if Abby returns alone or with a group of soldiers, Ellie and Tommy leave a note for Abby, inviting her to come to the theater where she can have Lev back. Ellie, Tommy, and Jesse prepare an ambush for Abby, and then patiently wait for her arrival. Dina also tells Ellie that she's pregnant with Jesse's child. The flashback takes us back to Jackson as Ellie and Dina dance and kiss while Ellie is thinking about talking to Joe for the first time since St. Mary's Hospital. Abby and Owen return to the aquarium where she finds dead Mel, crying Yara, and a note. Absolutely overwhelmed with madness, Abby, despite Owen's objections, goes straight to the theater into Ellie's trap. Owen goes with Abby, of course. There, in the theater, a brutal fight happens. Owen shoots Jesse and Tommy but gets killed by Ellie. In the end, it's Abby versus Ellie. Abby defeats Ellie, nearly strangles her to death, but at the end she remembers her childhood. Tears come to Abby's eyes. She lets Ellie go, demanding she never crosses her path ever again. Abby takes Lev and goes back to the aquarium, where another surprise awaits her: Isaac. Isaac is all covered in blood. He says the entire squad was killed by the Seraphites, only he survived. Isaac also tells Abby that she and Owen betrayed him and it's their fault that an entire squad got slaughtered. Isaac kills Yara, Lev kills Isaac who's barely standing on his feet. Almost everything is exactly like in the original game. Abby and Lev go to Santa Barbara. They're being ambushed by the Rattlers. Ellie and Dina stay on the farm and try to have a peaceful life there. Tommy finds out that Abby left Seattle for California and informs Ellie. Ellie, not being able to cope with her nightmares and PTSD, goes to Santa Barbara to finish Abby. And we all know how the story ends. This is my version of The Last of Us Part 2. I changed the sequence of events to make the players actually feel for Abby. In the original game, she tries to save Yara and Lev because she feels guilty after killing Joel. In my version, however, she feels bad because she was absent during the surgery when Joel committed a massacre in the hospital in Salt Lake City. We spent hours with Abby, we grow fond of her. This way murdering Joel is way more dramatic and way more controversial. We feel compassion for Abby, while simultaneously we hate her for killing Joel. This way we eliminate the problem of the original game, while keeping the same premise, characters and resolution. This was my humble attempt to rewrite The Last of Us Part 2. If you like this video, you can support me on Patreon. I'll be grateful for that.